Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. Now we have an astonishing story to finish on. The Bread of Life Community Church in Essex has been issued with a legal notice over their street preaching. The Community Protection Notice restricts the church's use of amplification during weekly preaching and could lead to a prosecution of its pastor and members if they continue. But they're now fighting back, challenging the legal notice, arguing it is unlawful and should be overturned. Joining me now is the pastor, Stephen Clayden. Welcome to the show, Stephen.
Thank you, Josh. Great to be here.
There's an argument about amplification. That's one part of it. But I believe that this becomes a free speech issue when they are raising concerns about the content with you, right?
Absolutely, yes. What was initially told is that we're breaching a PSPO, a Public Space Protection Order, which states that no amplification is allowed in the town centre. It clearly states no such thing. The PSPO in question refers to things like urinating in public, antisocial behaviour, drunkenness, things like this. There's no ban on amplification in the town centre. So they've issued us this CPN, a Community Protection Notice, not just stating that the amplification is the problem, but also the content, the actual message itself that we're preaching. This is what they're actually going after. And we know that any so-called complaints about volume is not about the volume whatsoever. It's about the actual message itself that they've got a problem with.
So what sort of message? Because, look, I've seen street preachers and some of them are just sort of going, you know, Jesus wants everyone to get along, and some of them are like, oh, you're going to go to hell. Look, that's not my judgment as to what it... Both of those are... But the point is they're legal. But what is upsetting people, then, about this message that you're spreading?
Well, we're there simply to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ. We're there to simply tell them that God loves them, that Jesus died for their sins, he rose from the dead on the third day, and anyone who believes in him will have everlasting life. We're simply there to preach the basic gospel that the Bible teaches. With that, of course, there's obviously warnings about the consequences of rejecting that message, which the Bible speaks a lot about. And that, of course, you know, is eternal judgment, which we are being targeted for preaching. We're preaching this message that if you believe in Jesus Christ, you'll be saved, but if you reject him, there will be eternal consequences to face.
That's a strange contradiction here, because I imagine the people who are upset by what you're saying don't believe in Jesus. So they wouldn't necessarily believe they're going to go to hell.
This is
so what's the problem?
This is the problem, is that a lot of the people who don't like what we're doing, they're not believers, they don't believe in heaven, they don't believe in hell, yet they still get offended and have a problem when we speak about things like hell. And that, like you say, is a complete contradiction, because, you know, they claim they don't believe in hell, and yet they're offended by the mention of the word. So it clearly shows that there is something in them that does believe.
Now, are you part of a sort of pastor community? Because it seems from what I read about these issues is that there seems to be an escalation of this kind of councils and the police shutting down public preaching, particularly Christian public preaching.
Well, this is rather an unprecedented case, because it's the first time that a council is going after an established church. 9 times out of 10, the preaching that you'll see on the streets is from, like, groups of individuals who go out preaching the gospel together, and that's great. But it's the first time, really, that a church has been targeted, an established, recognised ministry. We're registered with the Charity Commission as well, and it's really the first time that a church is being targeted simply for going out preaching the message of the Bible. And, like I say, it is more about the content itself rather than just the volume, because you see loud things in towns all the time, buskers, loud cars backfiring, all this kind of thing. People have to put up with lots of noise all the time, but they don't complain about it. They only complain about the preaching of the Bible.
So do you think that you'll prove the point by not using amplification and just preaching the message then?
Well, right now we are ceasing the amplification whilst this court case is going through. So we've been told we're not to use amplification, and we're also to cease using intimidating language, to quote the CPN. And until this court case is settled one way or another, we're simply preaching open air, like they did probably in Old Testament times or New Testament times. But
I just call it Testament times.
Of course,
that's a joke. Well, look, good luck with it. Please keep us informed. Big round of applause, please, for Pastor Stephen Clayden. Thank you. Colchester City Council said it would not comment before the hearing. Well, thank you for joining us for Free Speech Nation. Thank you to my panel, Adi McQueen and Cresta Wetton, and to all of my brilliant guests this evening, and, of course, my live studio audience. Thanks for coming in, guys.